Microphones. It's important that you have a decent microphone if you're launching a radio station or you're starting a podcast. But with so many options on the market, which one should you go out and buy? All of that and more in today's video, so stay where you are. So there are tons of options on the market in terms of condenser microphones, dynamic microphones at huge price variations. But which ones are the best ones to go out and buy? And who is using the best microphones? When you watch people like Joe Rogan or Howard Stern, what microphones are they actually using? Well, I'm going to reveal all of this and more in today's video. I've actually got 20 different microphones to look at today. I'm very lucky because I've tried and tested most of these. Some of them I haven't. And what I've done is separated these into 4 different categories for you. And I'm going to highlight one out of each category that is going to be my top recommendation. So let's dive into it. Here are the 20 best microphones on the market from my perspective. Please leave your comments below if you think I've missed anything. I'm intrigued to see which of these mics is your favorite. All right, let's go. All right, so you might have seen your favorite podcast or radio stars using various different types of professional microphone in their studio, but which ones are they using? So what I wanted to do today is give you a summary of all of these mics that you see here on the screen, plus also a bunch of others to sort of fit into 4 different categories. In fact, we're going to be looking at 20 different microphones today. I've used or own about half of these. In fact, maybe more than half. I'd say probably about 80%. We have these in our office. So a lot of them have been tried and tested. There's a few that haven't. I'll be open and honest with the ones that I think I haven't actually tested out myself. So these are going to be split into 4 categories. First of all, condenser microphones. I'm speaking to you on a condenser microphone right now. They're my personal favorite. So we're going to first of all look at 5 premium condenser microphones and then 5 budget condenser microphones. When I say budget, I say under $300, okay? So, and don't worry, these aren't all going to be around the $300 price tag. We're going to be kind of covering a range of cheaper alternatives. Some of these more expensive ones do fall into the thousands category. So they are for, you know, proper enthusiasts or people who have got more of a budget. Perhaps you're opening a professional studio or a professional voiceover business, or you just want to, you maybe have a lot of money to spend, you know, and you're doing really well with your business, so you want to invest in a top-notch microphone. These are the ones for you. Likewise, with dynamic microphones, which seem to be really popular with podcasters, we're going to look at a bunch of premium options and then a bunch of more budget-friendly ones for under $300. So without further ado, let's get stuck into our first category, which is condenser microphones in the premium category. I'm going to start off with the granddaddy of them all. This is the Neumann U87. It's been around for 50 years. It's handmade in Germany, and this was used by the likes of the Beatles back in the day to record music, and it's still used today by lots of recording artists. Ed Sheeran, you know, you name it. All these big recording artists will use this microphone to record vocals, to record instruments, but also it's used by a lot of radio stations, especially the ones with the bigger budgets and the fancy studios. I'm talking likes of BBC Radio 1 use these microphones, BBC Radio 2, NPR, and so on and so forth. It's popular because it's incredibly clear. You know, it's got this kind of real sparkle to it, and you can just hear almost every single detail of someone's voice. So really popular. If you can afford this, it's around £2,000 or $2,800. A pretty fair price tag, which is why I've scored it a little bit down on value, because ultimately this is where of most people's reach. But this is what they're using at the top level of radio and podcasting. Now this is the microphone I'm actually speaking to you on right now, and I'm a big fan of it. It's still pretty pricey, around £800 or $1,000, but it's like the baby version of the U87. It uses the same capsule, which is the little gold ring you can see. It's incredibly clear. I think it sounds amazing, and it's actually used as the primary microphone in a lot of commercial radio studios around the UK. Now the thing about condenser microphones is you really need either a studio or a very quiet room in order to use them with some kind of soundproofing, because they do tend to pick up on every single detail. If you've got a lot of background noise, if you've got kids playing out in the garden, they'll pick up on that. So you need to make sure you're in an ideal space if you're going to use a condenser microphone, which is why we're going to get onto a dynamic microphone soon. So let's move up to the next option, AKG C414. Again, pretty similar price tag to the Neumann. The benefit of this is it's more configurable. You can change the polar pickup pattern, which is like figure of 8 and cardioid and all those kind of things. You know, if you're going to be recording instruments, etc., you might want some different options. But again, it's used by a lot of YouTubers, a lot of podcasters. Been around a long time. Again, kind of looks kind of fancy, got a fancy gold mesh, so this is a mic that's really, really popular. Finally, I thought I'd throw this one in here because I see it used in a lot of UK radio studios, especially global studios, so Capital FM, Radio X, they all use this Beyerdynamic mic. I don't really know why, because you don't see it being used a lot elsewhere. But, you know, it's a good quality mic, it's reference grade. I guess it's kind of comparable to the Neumann U87 in a sense, but probably half the price, which is maybe why they're using it. Again, kind of that kind of punchy sound, really kind of reference grade audio quality. So, finally, to round up, we're going to price tag a little bit down now. So this is the Audio Technica AT4033. And I see this used in a lot of radio stations, particularly local, smaller community radio stations, local stations, that kind of thing. It's got a similar vibe to the TLM 103, but it's a lot cheaper. Fairly good clarity, good radio sound. If you want a good sounding mic, this is probably a pretty budget friendly option in the kind of professional category. About £350, $450. So we're going to go for a 6 out of 10 overall for this one. If I had to pick one microphone out of this category, I will go for the Neumann TLM 103, just because I have one at home. We've got a cute view at the office as well, and I just think it sounds amazing. I think it sounds incredible, and I really, really like it. I like it's quite a small form factor as well, so it doesn't occupy too much space, and you know, I'd say 9 out of 10 for quality, 7 out of 10 for value. It's the same kind of microphone as the U87, but it just, I think, sounds just as good, actually. You know, to most people's ears, I think it sounds just as good. And say overall, we rate this one a 9 out of 10. This is my pick for this particular category. So now let's move on to some more budget-friendly options under $300, and let's start off with the Blue Spark. Now we have one of these. It's a great microphone. In fact, there's some YouTube videos which are comparing this to the U87. Obviously this is like 10% of the price, and they're saying that it sounds the same, so check it out. It's the Blue Spark. I think this looks awesome, by the way. It's got such a cool form factor to it, kind of retro vibe going on. £180, $230, smart looking. If you want something that's perhaps going to be used on video, pretty cool mic. Next up, this is a relatively new mic. It's not been around for too long. Aston Origin, made in the UK. Good strong steel. It kind of feels really robust, but it's kind of quite small as well, which I like. So it's, you know, you could probably have a bunch of these, carry them around with you if you wanted. I think it's got a nice warm sound to it as well, so it's pretty versatile. You can use it for voiceover work. You can record it, musical instruments with it. Again, it's kind of meant to be a bit of a jack of all trades. Side address, so you don't speak into the end of it, you speak into the side of it, just like the other ones that we've been looking at. So I'm going to go for a good 7 out of 10 on quality, value, and the overall score as well there. Okay, so next up, this I have a bit of a history with, because back in, I think it was like 2003, 2004, when I was kind of first going into radio, this was the first mic I ever actually owned. I bought this, and back then I think it was probably a little bit more expensive than it is now. I think it might have been £150 or $200, something like that. And it sounds amazing. I think for the price of this, you're getting a really good, crisp, clear sound quality. And to this day, you know, we still have a couple of these at the office. They do still get used. But as I say, I've just got this kind of history with it. I really love it because it was the first proper mic I ever owned. And back then, if you wanted to go and buy a microphone, there's not all the options that there are on the market now, which fall into this kind of budget price category. So this was really one of the only options. And certainly USB mics didn't exist back then. So you had to kind of get one of these, you had to buy like a suitable interface and then plug it into a sound card. It was all very confusing. Things like the Scarlett 2i2 weren't around back then. So, you know, there wasn't really very many options. But yeah, I love this. Behringer B1, go and check it out. Next up, Audio Technica AT2020. This is really popular. We see this being used by so many streamers, podcasters, home musicians, people who are kind of creating music and creating content. It's kind of got a good sound quality, and it's a budget option by a well-known brand, probably in a similar category to the bigger brother that we were looking at earlier. I'm kind of rating this one like in the mid-level, kind of 5 out of 10. Personally, we've not actually used this mic at the office, and I haven't got one of these, so I kind of am just going based on what I think it sounds like when I've watched people using it. And also, I don't think it looks great. I don't know about you, it kind of looks a bit rubbish. I think they could definitely do better with the design. Anyway, finally, we'll finish up with the Rode NT1. This is a really popular option. We see this being used by people who are recording music at home all the time. I think it's very much just like a go-to mic. A lot of people, when they're going and buying a condenser microphone, will just go and buy default. I don't think it sounds amazing. I don't think it looks great either. again, it's just because it's so common and I just see it everywhere. I'm going to go a 4 out of 10 overall. I'm not keen on this mic at all. Nothing against it. I'm sure it's perfectly good. Just my personal opinion there. What do you think? Please put a comment below. Now, if I have to pick one winner from this category, it's got to be the Behringer B1. I don't know why. As I say, probably just because I've got history with this mic. I've used it for years. And, I remember the first ever time I powered it up, I was like, wow, my voice sounds amazing on this. When you get that first kind of experience of speaking into a mic, and it's all properly configured and sounds great. It kind of just does your voice justice. And I think for the sake of 80 quid, it's so cheap and it's really accessible to anyone. So this is going to be my star for this category. Okay, now let's look at dynamic microphones in the premium category. First of all, we're starting out with another of my favourites, the Shure SM7B. Now this is a legend. This mic has been around for years. It's used all over Europe, mainly in radio studios, but the version of this microphone, its kind of predecessor, which is very, very similar looking and similar sounding, was actually used by Michael Jackson to record the Thriller album. It's popular in the podcasting world, but also we see it being used a lot by recording artists, singers, voiceover artists, and obviously radio presenters as well. I think it sounds great. I think it's got really good clarity and it makes your voice sound amazing. You saw at the beginning Joe Rogan, he uses these microphones in his studio as well. So overall, I'm going to give this a good old 9 out of 10. Next up, the Electrovoice RE20. Now this is a late night radio legend, and it's been used all over the USA in almost every radio station for years and years and years. And I kind of think it looks really 80s now. Like, it looks like one of those old computers you get, and it kind of goes a bit of a funny colour. But it's popular because it does have those kind of bassy lows and those sort of sparkly highs. It kind of gives you that radio jock sound, but maybe that's a little bit dated now. I don't know. What do you think? I know this microphone is really popular. It's really close to a lot of people, so I'm probably going to offend some people by saying that, but I think this microphone does perhaps it's had its day, and I think there's better options out there now. So I'm going to give it its quality 8 out of 10. Yeah, it sounds pretty good. Value, it's okay. But let's say overall 7 out of 10. I think really this has had its day. I personally would go out and buy one of these in 2020. Comment below and tell me what you think, because I know a lot of people are really attached to this mic. This is kind of like the more grown-up, shinier, newer version of the RE20. It's called the RE27 N-D, and I think the ND thing has got this variable D, so basically that means it doesn't matter if you're really close up to the mic or a little bit further away, you kind of get the same sound, because a lot of mics suffer from this thing called the proximity effect, which is basically this: when you go really close, it kind of makes your voice go really rrr. This mic is meant to sort of minimize that, and it means also as well, you kind of, if you're going off to the side, it doesn't matter too much. I think this has got a bit of a brighter sound than the RE20. I think it's been updated to sort of maybe sound a bit more fresh, a bit more modern. It's about £400, $450. So we'll give this one a good old 8 out of 10. I think it's definitely an improvement on the RE20. But anyway, keen to hear your thoughts. Please let me know below. Now, this is hugely popular for podcasting. This is the Heil PR40. And again, a lot of people compare it, saying you don't really need to apply post-processing to this because it sounds so good. And it's kind of got this radio sound, this kind of jazzed up highs and bassy lows. And it's not always perfect for every voice. I would say that. Some people love the sound of it. I think you need to use it at the right distance to get the right effect as well. It's not the best mic in the world, in my opinion, but I know a lot of people love the sound of this. Again, it's become really popular amongst a lot of podcasters. The good thing about all of these dynamic mics is they work really well when you're up close to them, but they don't pick out too much of the background noise. So they are very good when you're not in a perfectly kind of sound-treated studio environment. Okay, next up, Neumann. This is Neumann's entry. It's kind of like I think it's almost like a dynamic microphone in disguise of a condenser microphone, but it seems to sound okay. I've noticed it's being used now in a lot of the BBC local radio studios in the UK. I haven't really seen it used anywhere outside of the radio industry, and I haven't seen it used by many podcasters. It's quite new to the market, but it'd be interesting to see or hear from you if you've got one of these. I mean, the videos I've watched on YouTube reviewing this, they all sound pretty decent, and as I say, it's being picked up here and there. I still think that the Shure SM7B is kind of the winner in this category, which is why I've given it the gold star. And we see this being used in podcast studios, radio studios, seeing a lot of home use now, and I just think it's a really good all-rounder. I think the negative thing about Shure SM7B is perhaps that it's not ideal in terms of its looks. I think it could be a bit more snazzy. But you know, it's functional. And also the little weird cable thing that goes around it. What's that about? Why don't they just fix that? Build it into the chassis somehow or something like that. But you know, perfectly functional. We use this in our podcasting studios. We have about, I don't know, 10 of them. We have about 6 in the studio, and we have like 4 that we take out on location to record. So it's a really good, versatile mic. So our final category, dynamic microphones under $300, perfect for home use if you're just getting started. You want a good microphone, you don't have to worry about putting sound treatment in your room or anything like that. Let's have a look. First of all, the Electrovoice RE320. Now, I'm a big fan of this microphone. I think it sounds great. We actually had a radio station. We had 4 of these mics in the studio, and we purchased them as a kind of low budget alternative to the RE20 or the 27. I think it's got a bit of a like liver sound to it. It kind of sounds a bit more sparkly on the top and not as kind of bassy and muddy on the lows. So this is kind of one of the reasons we went for it, because we wanted something that sounded kind of perky and exciting and modern. A lot of people don't like this microphone for some reason. Don't really know why. I actually think it looks cool as well, the fact that it's been made into a sort of matte black finish versus that kind of weird 80s grey looking thing. Although ultimately the Electrovoice mics all do kind of look the same, and it's kind of a funny looking thing, isn't it? Again, you know, end address microphone is popular with live streamers and vloggers, and that's really the market it's been targeted at, but it's got a great quality sound. So overall, I'm going to give this 9 out of 10. 9 out of 10 on quality, 8 out of 10 on value. About £350 or $440. Now, next up, this has quite recently been released. I think it's about a year old now. And what I really like about this is it's tiny. It's kind of got this neat little form factor. It's all built into one, and you can kind of just adjust it quite easily to how you want, but it kind of also feels quite solid. It's nice and metal. It's got a good weight to it. It doesn't feel too kind of plasticky. It's specifically, by the name, designed for podcasting, and it's perfect if you want to buy, say, 4 mics. You haven't got a huge budget. You want 4 mics that are just going to work for whoever sat in front of them, really. You know, it has a pretty kind of normal sound to it. I wouldn't say it kind of has particular emphasis on the highs or the lows. It kind of just has a nice flat sound, which is great if you just want a good studio setup. Maybe you're just getting started for £100 or $100, £90 investment. It's not a huge amount of money, but again, if you want to buy 4 or 5 mics, it's great. And because it's so small as well, very easy to take round to you and record any way you want. So overall, I'm going to say 10 out of 10 for value. I think it's fantastic value, this mic. 6 out of 10 as an overall score. Alright, the Shure SM58. Now this has been around for years. This is kind of like one of these microphones that can be slung around. It's like a workhorse, it never breaks, and it just delivers consistent results. It's used pretty much every stage in the world for live music. It can do voiceover, it can do vocals, it can do instruments. It's just great. If you want to get a bunch of mics to carry around with you, this is probably something to consider. Due to its form factor, it's quite easily handheld as well, which is, if you're doing interviews or if you're going to go and record on location, sometimes it can just be handy just to be able to hold on to the mic and not have to worry about carrying stands around with you, that sort of thing. It is popular. It's being used more and more by podcasters as well as by sort of musicians, traditionally, as it would be. And I'd say, it sounds very good. It's a good sounding microphone. So next up, bit of a wild card. This is the Aston Stealth, again made in the UK, right? British quality. And look how cool this looks. It's designed to look like a stealth bomber or something, I think. It's only been around for like a few months, I think, like a year perhaps. But one of the cool things about this is it's got all these different settings that can be tailored to your voice. So if you're looking for kind of that more radio voice, there's a setting for that. If you want to kind of lighten it up, there's just various different settings. I think there's 4 different options depending on your voice. So it can kind of sound different depending on the setting you want. I think there's one in there that's going to kind of sound like more retro as well. It's a pretty cool mic. Again, it's dynamic, perfect for home streaming, and also it's pretty much 7 out of 10 in terms of an overall rating. I'd say I think this looks really, really cool, and I think it's nice how they're being innovative with how they look. But also, it's not for everyone. It's kind of a bit weird looking, I think. I don't know. But tell me what you think. Do you think this looks like a cool mic? Leave me a comment below. Okay, so my final option for you for this whole presentation, wow, we're at 20 mics down, is the Rode Procaster. Now, this is really popular. We see this in so many videos on YouTube. It seems to be the go-to mic, probably because it's kind of called the Procaster, so people just think, oh, it's for podcasters. Now, I think it's good, and I think it sounds decent, but I don't think it sounds amazing, and I think it kind of just is a bit kind of clunky looking as well. It's quite a big mic, It's sturdy, but it's probably not very portable. Let's give this a 7 out of 10 overall. You know, it's good quality, everyone seems to love it, and it's relatively budget friendly, about £159 or $200. But if I had to pick one winner from this category, I think I'd go for the Rode PodMic, just because it sounds pretty good for everyone who's sat in front of it. It's kind of fairly neutral, and also, you know, it's just really, really budget friendly, and it's just such a small, nicely designed microphone. It's not going to occupy too much space on your desk, doesn't really get in the way, and you can easily carry it around with you, and it's just built to last as well. I think it's a great little microphone. Starting a radio station has never been easier. Click here and I'll take you to a free guide which shows you exactly how you can start a radio station with minimal fuss, no technical headaches, plus also start getting those all important listeners. How does that sound? Click here and I will take you to my free guide.